What's going on, everybody? It is the watch list. It is Thursday, but you know what else it is? In case you haven't been told yet, it's St. Patrick's Day. So you gotta get your fits, gotta get your green on. I dropped my kid off at school today, and he had almost forgotten his green, and it is also his favorite color. So I was completely devastated and almost embarrassed for him, but I did get him his green hat. He jumped in there just very happily. But I do want to point out, as I told my producers just a minute ago, I overdo the green on St. Patrick's Day because I was a kid who didn't care, and I was tired of getting pinched, and fights would normally have to happen. But I overdo it now for you guys, so that you guys can say, damn, he's wearing too much green. And you're right, it's too much green. But that's what you guys asked for. No one celebrates St. Patrick's Day for whatever it is that they say they're celebrating for. People show up at bars at 6 a.m. and start drinking, and I don't understand it. They drink Irish car bombs, which are the most disgusting thing you could possibly put in your body. I will also say that and catch all ridicule. I expect your comments about this after this first break, because I can't wait to hear your horror stories about drinking at 6 a.m. on St. Patrick's Day when you absolutely shouldn't. That's all I have to say about St. Patrick's Day. Happy Patty's Day. Let's get started, you guys, on the news. Let's go.
I'm in a neighborhood right now. I just sold my house. It's overwhelmingly South Asian, largely Indian, with some people from Pakistan. And they're perfectly nice people, but they have citizenship in many cases. But I asked them, are you worried about the economy? Oh, no, I don't think so. Really? I said, well, we're very concerned about the economy. What are you going to do if everything tanks? If everything falls apart? Oh, I'm not worried. I'm going to go back to India. If it gets better, I'll be back. And I remembered Philadelphia in the 1960s, and then I heard this, and suddenly dawned on me, this is a microcosm of everything that's wrong now in the United States. Because we have a huge problem with a class of so-called elites, the people that are wealthy, very wealthy in many cases, and they are, as the Russians used to call certain individuals many, many years ago, ruthless cosmopolitans.
Rootless cosmopolitans. That there was Douglas McGregor. You've probably seen him on Tucker Carlson lately talking about the Russian invasion into Ukraine. But there he is in 2021, just last year, at a Serbian Voters Alliance meeting, speaking to the crowd there. And when he mentioned the rootless cosmopolitans there, that is a phrase that he said is attributed to the Russians. What he didn't point out there was also that is also Soviet era Stalinists that used that term. And last surprise here, that phrase would also refers to Jewish folks. Might as well, why not? Let's just go there too. So yeah, it's another conservative that's talking more of the Jewish folks and immigrants and everyone who's not the white person that they assume is the right white person, that they're gonna replace real Americans. Run up in there, that's craziness. So let's watch more of McGregor.
They live above all of this. They have no connection to the country. There is nothing there that holds them in place. And they are largely responsible, in my judgment, for the condition that we are in today. And many of us were surprised about what happened. We shouldn't have been, because there were lots of indicators. And I know that the president feels that way now. But that group, more than anything else, is what we're up against. And the other things that you see, whether it's BLM or Antifa, those are just foot soldiers.
Yes.
They're being deployed to attack us. And we are the enemy, ladies and gentlemen, because we are Americans. You see, we have a sense of identity. We have a set of beliefs, and we're willing to do something about it. At least I think we are.
So there's a bunch of hierarchies that he's putting together there. First off, he and whoever he thinks is like him are the real Americans. The BLM groups, just like Mitch McConnell said, there's African Americans, then there's Americans. So there's BLM groups, they're being deployed. You got people that don't know how to assimilate to the culture. They don't know how to get in with us. So again, these folks that aren't who you are, who you expect real Americans to be, are just folks that have come over and don't know how to assimilate to your culture. Isn't it weird how when people look like him came to this land and didn't look like the folks that were already here, they didn't assimilate to that culture, not at all. In fact, they took it over and said that culture is inferior to theirs. So let's just take it over, spread our diseases, murder, and just steal and take. That's the mindset that we're talking about here. So when we're talking about assimilation, that's definitely something he and his group they're, I guess they're speaking, never engaged in. But that's okay because they're supposed to be the superior race of the whole world. Either way it goes. That's why he finds himself on Tucker Carlson a lot, talking more about the global elite. Watch this.
Seems like if you're looking for a crisis, a constitutional crisis, or something that would undermine democracy as we've practiced it for 240 years, it's the idea of the unelected subverting the power of the elected, right? I mean, isn't that, that's anti-democratic by definition?
The problem is the unelected are being supported by many of the elected. I think the real point is as follows. We have a globalist ruling elite in Washington, D.C. It now includes the senior leadership in the Pentagon as well as the State Department.
The global elite now are in Washington. Man, they're taking over. Man, I tell you what, maybe if someone talked about it for several decades about how dangerous these folks are, maybe it'll stop. Or maybe it's just drawing some more lines between who you think are the good guys and who you now want to persecute, which has been a case throughout history. But that whole global elite thing, when we hear about elitism, even when President Obama was in office, how he's such an elitist. He's this smart Harvard grad elitist. Oh my God, we gotta look out for these elitists. I can't believe we have all these elitists, these rich people that are coming over and taking things over and have no concern for anyone else's lives. Let's hear what Tucker has to say about being an elitist.
You pay your bill.
Coffee, read the newspapers, stuff like that. Choose some Nicorette, go out to lunch.
How do you pay your bills?
Well, I'm like extraordinarily loaded just from like money I, inherited from my number of trust funds.
From the Swanson.
Yeah, totally.
From the Swanson deal.
Yeah, I'll go out and beat some servants. I'll wrap my Lamborghini around a tree. Go pick up a kilo or two. Just like normal stuff like that.
You're just living. You're a trust fund baby, are you not?
No, completely. I've never needed to work. Yeah, I mean, it's all just the whole cable news thing was just a total pose. It was like a phase I was going through.
Maybe he was just joking. He's just joking about being an heir to an incredibly wealthy family, getting all the money that he could from that, and then also just living his life in that manner. Tucker Carlson has been the guy who will play this role like he's representing the regular guy, when at the same time can talk about he doesn't hide the fact of where he comes from. None of that matters. Any of these rich folks that talk about how these elitists are taking over the world or these elitists don't care about the normal person, as they literally act that out. I guess the people who support them and listen and think that everything they say is the gospel don't really realize that they are the folks that actually don't care about where things progress and go through the world. It upholds where they are. But as long as they make you look and say that's the other guy that's doing it, they can continue to pull the veil over your face, and we'll continue down this road. I don't know. Maybe at some point people will figure it out as things get shown on social media, and then we can replay videos. Tucker Carlson's wonder why people think he's been rooting for Russia. People wonder why Tucker Carlson has said all of these lies about anything that progresses his point of view with no basis behind it. It doesn't matter. And now McGregor comes on, and we saw the things he said about Russia and how they should have invaded Ukraine, and it's okay, and maybe Ukraine should just lay it all down. The takes are outrageous, but there's McGregor and there's Tucker Carlson. That's who they are. Let's go to this next story.
Being a journalist and a brother to a politician is unique and a unique challenge, and I have a unique responsibility to balance those roles. It's not always easy, and people can say and write what they want, but I want you to know the truth. How I helped my brother also matters. When my brother's situation became turbulent, being looped into calls with other friends of his and advisors that did include some of his staff, I understand why that was a problem for CNN. It will not happen again. It was a mistake because I put my colleagues here, who I believe are the best in the business, in a bad spot. I never intended for that. I would never intend for that. And I am sorry for that. I love my brother. I love my family. I love my job. And I love and respect my colleagues here at CNN. And again, to them, I am truly sorry.
There was Chris Cuomo last year apologizing for his part in assisting his brother in his sexual harassment case, but apologizing about how he was doing a little bit extra as he was working with CNN as well. But also the dust has not settled. There's some developments that have now happened because since then he has since been fired. I think it was late December of last year. He's been fired from CNN as they discovered more and more about his involvement. But he's now seeking $125 million from the network over the move to fire him. Let's go to some of those details because the reasons that they said they took it from not doing much then to now was there was an evaluation of new information that came to light about his involvement with his brother. So maybe they thought there was more happening. So in response to that, Chris Cuomo and his attorneys have filed this. So in that filing, his lawyers argue that CNN had full knowledge of his dealings with the governor. CNN, Zucker, and Gollust were fully aware of the scope of Cuomo's assistance to Governor Cuomo and in fact participated in and encouraged the same behavior. That's what Cuomo's filing states. So this new filing also claims that Cuomo was fired in part due to an anonymous allegation of sexual misconduct said to have occurred before his time at CNN and accuses the network of not even attempting to investigate the veracity of the anonymous allegations against him before deciding to terminate his employment. So why is it $125 million? It seems like a very specific number. Why not a flat 100? Why not 150? Who knows? Let's check it out because they do have those details. Cuomo has had his journalistic integrity unjustifiably smeared, making it very difficult, if not impossible, for Cuomo to find similar work in the future and damaging him in amounts that exceed that $125 million number, which includes not only the remaining salary owed under the agreement, but future wages lost as a result of CNN's efforts to destroy his reputation in violation of the agreement. So I think there was a 15 or 25 mil on what he's saying is the agreement, but the other 100 or 110 is based off what they figure he could have made if they didn't destroy his reputation. Now, we talk about these reputations, and some of the people he named were specific other anchors at CNN, one being his good friend Don Lemon, who they used to have exchanges like this.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you, brother.
I know you had a great Thanksgiving. I hope you did. I missed you. I'm grateful for your friendship and your love. I think that you are fantastic. One of the kindest people I know on this planet. There you go. I meant every word.
Well, I am thankful for you in my life. It was great to see you having a good time. I like the Friendsgiving tradition.
Yes.
For us, it was great to be in the house for the first time. And it was all good, man. One memory at a time. It's always better with you, but it was good to know you were having fun where you were.
That was one of their famous handoffs they had because their shows went back to back, and they openly talked about how they were good friends off air. Brother, I love you. Come to Friendsgiving, and it's pretty apparent that they were pretty tight. But this is the wedge that potentially drove between them after the firing, because the filing does claim also that CNN, they mentioned other folks, other top hosts like Jake Tapper, as there's Don Lemon, Brian Stelter. They engaged in a quote smear campaign against him by commenting on his firing on the air. But this particular thing, there was a meeting that happened where they were talking about Jeff Zucker's resignation, and multiple big named anchors and hosts were on that call. This is where Don Lemon apparently crossed the line for Cuomo. So Oliver Darcy in that phone call asked Mr. Killar whether CNN would pay former Cuomo primetime host Chris Cuomo a severance package. Mr. Lemon, the host of Don Lemon's Night, followed up on Mr. Darcy's question, asking whether Mr. Killar has weighed the signals he might be sending by compensating individuals who break with company standards. Again, talking about Chris. Did you think about what message it sends to the journalists in the company and also the larger public that someone can be found to break those journalistic standards and then get paid handsomely for it? Apparently that's what Don Lemon said on that call. That wasn't on air, but apparently it's smearing him in his future endeavors. So Jake Tapper was also mentioned. He was on a podcast from the New York Times, and he said this.
I cannot imagine a world in which anybody in journalism thinks that that was appropriate. So, I mean, I agree with that. And he said Chris, in his apology that he delivered on air, said that he put us in a bad spot, and I would also agree with that. And then just as a last point, I would say that I work very hard to be fair and to be ethical and to not cross lines. And I certainly understand the love that Chris has for his brother, and I have a brother, and I get it. But that was not a fun day.
So there's the names, there's the people that have said things that have Cuomo's attorneys filing this grievance, looking for the 125 million, and we'll see. Honestly, I don't know what the agreement says, so it's hard to always to comment on these things. Like, well, yeah, he should or shouldn't get the money. The money's there. So even if he gets it, I'm not sure if that's gonna put much of a stain on CNN to where people think, oh, I can't work here. Or even if I have these journalistic standards get broken, I can just wild out and get tons of money back. I don't know. So Don Lemon was asking the question. I guess it's worth asking. But either way it goes, I mean, this isn't gonna change much, to put it, I guess, blatantly. This is not really gonna change the culture there. It's not going to change whether or not someone thinks they can get away with things at CNN. Chris Cuomo's a big name. He was making a ton of money. He could have made more tons of money. Who knows if that got derailed or if he just doesn't even want to do the business anymore. We'll see. Let's go to this next story with Mike Pence.
There are those in our party who believe that as the presiding officer over the joint session of Congress, that I possess unilateral authority to reject electoral college votes. And I heard this week that President Trump said I had the right to overturn the election. But President Trump is wrong. I had no right to overturn the election. The presidency belongs to the American people and the American people alone. And frankly, there is no idea more un-American than the notion that any one person could choose the American president.
We remember those words from back in February when Mike Pence, former Vice President Mike Pence, he damn near sealed his fate. He's not gonna be the running mate for President Trump if he decides to run again for the third time, because there was some truth there that he spoke. That always does it for you. So by the way, just in case it wasn't, you couldn't figure it enough, Donald Trump did come forward. He talked to the Washington Examiner and he did pretty much point out it's not gonna happen specifically because of things like that. Let's go to what Donald Trump said about this potential of having him. I don't think that people would accept it, is what Trump told the Washington Examiner. The former president cited friction stemming from the aftermath of the 2020 election, suggesting that their differences are too stark to overcome. I think that might be the case. Mike and I had a great relationship, except for the very important factor that took place at the end. We had a very good relationship. I haven't spoken to him in a long time. Mike thought he was going to be a human conveyor belt, and that no matter how fraudulent the votes, you have to send them up to the old crow. Of course, Trump, that's talking about Senate Minority Leader at the Mitch McConnell, because he's the old crow. Send it up to him. And so lastly, Trump also said, I was disappointed in Mike because he didn't follow the orders to try and overturn, or as he pointed out, overturn this election, which later they denied, he said, but of course he said it. Also, by the way, Pence has been hinting at a potential presidential run himself, which makes all the sense in the world. A vice president who thought he's gonna float his way into the next realm of his career. But of course, Trump is still derailing that. So what as part of that, he violated Trump's rule of this complete capitulation as he was doing it. He did it twice though. So this is what else he said when it came to Trump's talk about Putin. There's no room in this party for apologists for Putin, is what Mike Pence said. And this is to party financiers for the Republican National Committee. And there was a donor retreat. Again, this is for some money because he's gonna run for president. We cannot win by fighting yesterday's battles or by relitigating the past. This is getting more and more stark. He knows that it's not gonna happen, so he might as well go full anti-Trump. But also maybe this one little jingle that Trump supporters were saying on January 6th, maybe this has convinced Pence that he's not gonna be back with Trump. Watch this. I get the feeling he's not gonna be on that on that ticket. It's not gonna happen. Let's take our first break. When we come back, there's a devastating story. It was hard to watch. I wasn't sure if I should even do this story today because of how hard it is to watch. So pre-warning, and then I'll warn you again. There was a man, I guess he was getting arrested, but of course eventually killed for his DUI back in 2020. And we're just now seeing that body cam evidence. We'll get to that and also some of your comments about the worst thing you drank on St. Patrick's Day when we come back.
Well, the Young Turks, the Friday show is gonna be awesome. We're gonna help us over here. Drop it.
We became the first ever daily online web television show.
No, the Constitution is the very core of America. The fact that we don't spy on American citizens
that we get a warrant, that we go to a judge, that we have a procedure, that we have due process. That is America.
On top of that, they go, why don't they just stay at their own schools? You got to realize something. These schools suck. They want people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. You ain't got no straps, you ain't got no boots.
He lit these fires in trash bins all around town out of frustration.
99th most viewed channel today on YouTube.
The Shorties Award. Best web host. We passed 1 billion views. Voice Award winner, News and Information Channel, The Young Turks. Oh, another Webby.
The Young Turks.
Can I curse? Yeah! For those of you watching on live stream, yes, we have adopted a pet iguana that showed up at our door. The haunted version in the dark with our silhouettes. Now let's get to the best line of the debate. And it was definitely the one against philosophy. I told you we were coming.
You talk about it when it becomes a problem. Our lack of gun control is a problem.
Nonsense BS story is hurting that cause, and they need to wake up and recognize that they are being had by these people.
Biggest gang in America. Question is, how do we make sure that we blame the person who is dead? What kind of democracy is that?
We should never forget that the most powerful people in the world exploited the greatest tragedy in American history to go to war in a country that had a lot of oil.
Rolling thunder. That's what this show is.
Never in my life did I think I would like to see a dictator. But if there's going to be one, I want it to be Trump.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
Where's the line? We've crossed every line you can imagine.
We are a socialist country. It's socialism for the rich.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
You don't have to know the truth, just believe what they tell you.
There is no bounds to their monstrous hypocrisy. Tick-tock. I think we're gonna win the Senate in 2020. And I think we're gonna have the House, and I think we're gonna have the presidency. Tick-tock. And in 2020, we're going to clean your clock, and we're gonna run you out of town, and we're gonna have an actual democracy in this country. November of 2020 could also be potentially the greatest day of our lives. Let us whisper of a dream.
My name is Carlos Hernandez. I am the valet parking for this small parking lot. I work for TYTs, and they coming to this lot over 4 years. I know two more famous person, Bernie Sanders, the former Vice President Al Gore, and too many other guys. I'm so happy to cover it with TYT.
Back to back that I like. Say hi to the camera.
I don't like this.
Welcome back. Hi, what's going on, you guys? Let's see what you guys have to say. I'd like to hear from you guys. First off, TYT members, thank you guys very much. This always reminds me, don't forget, you guys, if you enjoy what we're doing here, please like, subscribe. Watch this channel, of course, on YouTube as well as Facebook. Check us out, share, tell everyone what we're doing here. So first of all, members, thank you guys. The Alien Gray, JR, I love the green today, yes. This is the only time I'll do it, this much of it. Shy Coltrane 42, thank you again for being a member. What makes McGregor dangerous is his position of power within the military and politics, because he's a macrocosm and manifestation of racism, 100%. This happens a lot. We talk about how people in the military in positions of power all the time, but a lot of times they don't openly and explicitly say these things. He just has The nerve to. On Twitch, you guys over there, Maple Leaf Dragon. Worst thing I drank on St. Patrick's Day, that's what I'm looking for, you guys. 22-hour-old coffee. Have I done that before? I feel like I may have done that before. It was not St. Patrick's Day though. Les Trois Black Dragon says, not Irish, but people in my campus coop drink Jägermeister for holiday fun. Fun? Jägermeister, yeah, only time I had that was also, I think it was like a beer pong tournament and we won a whole thing of Jaeger and then no, it was Goldschlager. Oh God, even worse. Twitch also as well, Shadow Devil 1815 says, many people won't remember the worst thing they drank on St. Patrick's Day. I do remember it was multiple Irish car bombs. I think it was 3 of them before we even left because people wanted to pre-drink. And I was like, I don't know why you guys are drinking these things. And they kept trying to get me to drink them. So I drank a bunch of them and said, watch how disgusting this is. Then I didn't leave. Okay, more from Twitch. Expat Echo says, oh good, Cucker Carlson. I remember a day when I had no idea who he was. That was a much better time, I believe you. YouTube Super Chat, thank you guys very much. Woolzel 1967 says, you owe me 150 million for me destroying my own career. Of course, he's talking about Chris Cuomo there and the 125 million. Which, by the way, I'm not sure if I'm the bad guy, but I'm like, if it happens, okay, fine. Also, Woozle 1967, man, all over the place on the Super Chat. Hang my pants. That's maybe the chant that the Trumpers were saying. Maybe that's their way of getting out of it. It was the Antifa, remember it was Antifa, then it was BLM. Maybe they weren't chanting hang Mike Pence. Maybe those gallows out front were just a laundry hanging service for them to put their pants up. Anyway, let's go to this next story, you guys. And again, there's graphic details here of someone being killed. Watch.
Willingly. Okay. Oh, willingly, dude. Get a chair. You're really gonna do that? That was the last time. If you resist, if you even, it's a court order. It's a court order. It's your choice. Okay. How serious is this? This is serious. Why? For officers of enforcement to do this? Really? You can just provide it and still say you don't consent. That's fine. This is wrong. What is going on? You're bringing the fight to this, not us. I'm not fighting it at all. Then have a seat and provide your arm. This is your last opportunity. Otherwise, you're going face down on the mat, and we're going to keep on going. Okay, we don't have no okay? Can't do it. Well, we do it willingly, I suppose you. Please don't. Okay. I'll do it willingly. 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 I promise you will. I'll do it willingly. I'll do it. 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 I promise. I promise. No. Don't do it like this. Too late. Don't do it like this. Too late.
So that man's name was Edward Bronstein, and he died shortly after that, as officers knelt on his back and were doing whatever they could, they wanted to do. As he then said, "I'll do it willingly," over and over and over again. And what else he said over and over again was, "I can't breathe." In fact, 12 times is what he said. So later on, he did pass away after they jumped on him. So again, he was 38 years old. He died on March 31st of 2020. That was less than 2 months before George Floyd was killed by police in Minnesota. And that was after an altercation during his arrest on suspicion of driving under the influence. So he was pulled over for a DUI, but taken to a police station after refusing to give a blood sample. That's what they were discussing over there, which his family says was due to a fear of needles. Now, if you look at his face, you look at him talking about how I'm not sure if I want to do it. And the officer next to him was like patting his shoulder, because there was a sense in the room. If there's an officer that's patting his shoulder and trying to console him and comfort him, as he's already, I believe, handcuffed, looked like his hands are behind his back. There's probably something else going on, whether he's high, whether or not he's drunk, whatever it is, there's still human inside there. There's still human reaction. There's still someone who's afraid of something. And after you slammed him on the ground and decide to start kneeling on his back and he goes, "I'll do it," and you hear the cop say, "It's too late." Why? Ask yourself that. Why is it too late? What happens if once they push him onto his face and said, you can see there he's tapping him. If you push him on his face and he goes, "Okay, fine, I'm really afraid, but I'll do it." If you lift him back up and say, okay, let's do it the way we wanted to a second ago, what do you lose? What do you lose? What happens? Does he then go, ha ha, got you, idiot officers. I said I'll do it willingly now. Now I'll do it. Do you lose anything? Do you lose anything by listening to him after he says, okay, fine, I'll do it? What if he's broken 5 to 6 or 7 laws and he's got to go to jail? What difference does it make? Just do it. Instead, now it has to be violent. It has to be you kneeling on his back. So this footage was just now released. Again, that happened back in March of 2020. But he was dead for several minutes before officers realized that something was wrong. Let's go to those details. Eventually, he stops moving and officers did draw blood from his limp body. And in the second video, more than 12 minutes long, it shows the officers and paramedics' unsuccessful attempts to revive him. And they can be seen slapping him in the head and calling his name because that works. So they turned him over and they started giving him CPR and oxygen, but he didn't recover. And one officer tells the paramedics that Bronstein had been complaining of shortness of breath. Weird. And when we rolled him back over, he was turning blue. Soon after, someone reminds the group, everybody's on camera. So if someone has to remind you of that, we could go ahead and believe that if you weren't on camera, you wouldn't be as concerned about what just happened. But now that you have this man that's dead from you kneeling on his back and him telling you that you're killing him, now we have to remind that everyone, you're on camera. You might want to start acting like you care. So a criminal justice professor who reviewed this video also said that it appears the police were trying to just teach him a lesson. Let's go to what he said. His name is Professor Stinson, and he said the dangers are well known, but in this case, officers had a mat prepared, making it seem like this was a routine occurrence for the officers, and that they would take someone to the mat face down to gain compliance in order to get what they want. Also, their comments on camera seem to indicate that they were aware of a mind to teach somebody a lesson. Well, if you're not going to comply with what we want you to do, we're going to do this the hard way. It's going to be painful for you, is what also Stinson said. And finally, Stinson finished up by saying, it seemed that they were treating the incident as if the man was pretending to be unconscious. It did not seem to register that the officers, that there was a medical emergency for many minutes because they weren't treating him like a human. He was talking to them, but there was no more listening. It was, you haven't complied, now it's time for us to rough you up and do whatever we want, because that's a green light now. So his attorneys are now asking for justice. Let's watch what them and his family were saying about this.
When they finally flip him over, he's lifeless, he's dead, he's cold, he's blue.
He at least deserved a chance to have CPR done, to be treated like a human. He was treated like trash.
Take him away. Take him out of him. Don't let him work anymore to hurt anybody like they did my son. And they're still working. I don't understand that.
Every time there's one of these cases, you have to realize that there's a family involved. I think we forget that. Even for folks who are advocating for change and for these things to not happen the way they are. That's why it's always important to see what families have to say. And I hate that they even had to do that. Because some of these families get it in front of cameras, in front of press and everyone, and has to tell how their son, brother, father wasn't this monster after he's dead. You have to advocate for his character and be like, it was just a DUI, because those things don't ever happen. Those aren't millions and millions of cases of DUIs on a daily basis in America. But this one actually deserved the death penalty because he was concerned. If you didn't see the fear on his face, for whatever reason it was, even if it wasn't needles, if it was anything else, it's okay to still calm him down before you do your work. But part of their work is intimidation and violence. It's sad. I hope there's nothing you can do, honestly. I was gonna say, I hope they get some kind of retribution, but there's no such thing. He's gone, no coming back. Let's get back to politics with particularly Mo Brooks.
Congressman, I guess my question for you is, when you said you didn't know if you'd vote for Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump back in 2016 and refused to answer the question, I think then that you maybe weren't standing within the And then you also denigrated our president, President Trump, and you said all of us who voted for him, which by the way, I voted for him every single time he was on the ballot, and so did my husband, and that is certainly not something you can say. So it seems that you might have started the whole let's not stand with the party. Well, I think we've gone back and forth here.
I voted for Donald Trump in 2016. I voted for Donald Trump in 2020. And I think you're going to see a lot of misinformation like you've just seen. In 2016, I cut a check for $2,500 to help Donald Trump get elected. I don't know how much other people do. I know Linda Blanchard did quite a bit. I don't know about the other candidates, okay? But there's a reason why Donald Trump endorsed me in 2018. Donald Trump endorsed me in 2020. Donald Trump has endorsed me in 2022. So if you want to make an issue of Donald Trump and where he stands, by golly, let's have at it. Because Donald Trump knows who the real fighter is for the MAGA agenda in the state of Alabama, and he has said it as Mo Brooks.
Well, Donald Trump is now rethinking about that decision to endorse Mo Brooks. That was him fighting with Katie Britt, by the way, over who's the bigger Trump ass kisser. But after they did do that, he's apparently secured the nomination or secured the endorsement, the complete and total endorsement from Donald Trump. But Donald Trump is rethinking that, and I bet you could guess as to why, because Mo Brooks said things like this.
Our choices are very simple. There are some people who are despondent about the voter fraud and election theft in 2020. Folks, put that behind you. Put that behind you. Yes. Look forward. Look forward. Look forward. Beat them in 2022. Beat them in 2024. All right. Well, look back at it, but go forward and take advantage of it. We've got to win in 2022. We've got to win in 2024. That's what we've got to do. So, I ask you.
No, don't ask. They're already booing you. So there he is talking about moving on. By the way, all he's saying is moving on to the next election, which could be the most political thing in the world to say. But damn it, Mo, he did it again. Watch this too.
The date to fix the problem was January the 6th. Congress, not the courts, Congress is the ultimate judge, jury, and arbiter of who wins federal elections. And for the presidency, January 6th is the date set by law. So we gotta win elections, we gotta look forward. Now looking forward, I'm not saying that we shouldn't use what happened in 2020 as an impetus for us to get on our horse and charge. So that's our challenge. Whatever happened yesterday or the day before, or if you're an Auburn fan, what happened last Saturday you can't change. But by golly, you can win the next Iron Bowl.
By the way, Mo Brooks is still talking about how the 2020 election looks fraudulent. He's just saying move forward. He's not even dispelling the obviousness of how much Trump is talking about 2020. He's still on his side, but Donald Trump did have this to say because of those instances. Mo Brooks is disappointing, is what he told the Washington Examiner. This is on Tuesday. He was doing a large, wide-ranging phone interview with them, and he said, "I'm determining right now. Has he changed?" Trump said he endorsed Brooks because the congressman shared both his view that the 2020 election was stolen and a commitment to uncover how it happened. If Brooks's position has changed, Trump said, so might his support. He went on to say, I endorsed him because he felt strongly about election fraud, and he still does. But he was inarticulate in the way he said it. I'm disappointed that he gave an inarticulate answer, and I'll have to find out what he means. Of course, he's talking about that the rally originally when he got booed. If it meant what he sounded like, I would have no problem changing my endorsement, because when you endorse somebody based off principle. If he changed that principle, I would have no problem doing that. So the principle is continuing to kneel and continuing to tell Donald Trump everything you're saying about the stolen election is true, which Mo Brooks actually is. But then the bad thing is saying move on and vote in the next one. Nope, Donald Trump wants you to stick with 2020. Never move on. It's all about him. Those are the demands. Don't forget that part. Because also, I think it was yesterday, day before, we talked about his game show style endorsement techniques, because this is where it falls in. If you don't remember, one source said about his style of whether or not he's gonna endorse someone, said that two issues rank above all others when it comes to his endorsement: hardline opposition to immigration and support for, quote, election integrity, of course, which means Trump's big lie that the 2020 election was stolen from him by mass voter fraud. And apparently Mo Brooks has fallen out of it. It didn't help that Mo Brooks did this on January 6th. Watch this.
Today is a time of choosing, and tomorrow is a time for fighting. Today is also a day of revelation and separation. Today, the curtain will be pulled back, and American patriots will learn by their votes which Republican senators and congressmen have the courage to fight for America. Now, our ancestors sacrificed their blood, their sweat, their tears, their fortunes, and sometimes their lives to give us, their descendants, an America that is the greatest nation in world history. So I have a question for you. Are you willing to do the same? My answer is yes. Louder. Are you willing to do what it takes to fight for America?
Maybe lay down your lives. This has been a common theme. That's not enough for Donald Trump. Last thing, because this was a hilarious ad from back in 2017, because Mo Brooks has been jumping on the Trump train for a while, kissing ass. Here, watch this.
You're absolutely right, Mr. President. And Luther Strange and Mitch McConnell, they're dead wrong. They failed you on Obamacare, building the wall, balancing the budget. They fight to keep the 60% rule that kills your agenda. I sure don't. McConnell and Strange are weak, but together we can be strong. Mr. President, isn't it time we tell McConnell and Strange, you're fired?
Seems like you're fired now because Mo Brooks has changed. His principles have changed. How does it feel to get yanked around by Donald Trump? They're not gonna learn. Not gonna learn. Okay, let's take our next break, you guys, because we've got Tucker Carlson coming up. He did have a fight with a fellow Republican, elected official Republican, because she had a way for immigrants that come into America to find their way to some form of citizenship after a very long process. That is absolutely a no-go for Tucker Carlson. We'll do that, and also a few more of your comments when we come back.
Our generation actually has a voice to say who we want.
For the first time ever, we are the biggest voting bloc in America.
One of the people we've been talking about for months and months will be the president of the United States for the next 4 years.
And for a lot of us, this is the first time that we're ever going to vote.
Do you have any idea how much of a difference 4 years makes?
The action that we take right now doesn't just affect us right now.
Discussion is important, but words aren't the only thing. You have to take action.
So that we can actually affect real change instead of just talking about it.
Get out there and take a part in making a difference.
Every voice really does matter, whether young or old, especially young people. Get out there and vote, damn it.
Now, more than ever, we can make a change.
I'm gonna vote because I want this country to be different. I don't want the older generation to decide our future.
I want to make this world a better place for my son. You can make change.
Vote IRL. Vote IRL. Vote IRL.
Vote IRL.
Vote Earl.
Vote in real life.
Vote IRL.
Can we eat in here?
Joe Crowley is congressman from New York. He's very powerful, arguably one of the top Democrats in the House. But there's someone finally challenging him, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The election is today. If she wins, David beats Goliath.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has defeated Joe Crowley.
You made that happen. You're David. You just beat Goliath tonight. 2018 is a warm-up act. Wait till you get a load of 2020.
Hi, what's up, you guys? Let's see what you guys have to say. First off, on Twitch, man, I love you guys on Twitch. Keep us home. I like it. Says, my first time watching your show in full. Pain from bone cancer keeps me up late at night. Great job. It's awesome you have a new show now. Thank you very much. I hope everything is going better as far as the pain and what you're going through there. I hope this is a full and absolute total recovery for you. Maria Hall DK says, also a DUI, why is it necessary to use lethal force to restrain him? You have his details, even if he ran, you can just show up at his home. Again, he looked like he was handcuffed. There's not much else that was gonna happen there. He didn't look like he was angry or anything. It looked afraid to me that entire time. YouTube super chat, more on the DUI. Forbesilla, thank you very much. First of all, as someone who has a DUI, you don't have to consent to giving a blood or a breathalyzer. It's very messed up that they forced him to give a sample. I think it's pretty obvious at some point you can get whether or not he was actually under the influence. You can probably get those samples at some point. I don't know the protocol, but I do know you didn't have to kill him. Let's go right into this next story.
They can start paying, and they can.
Now we're getting pretty deep into the talking points here. What you're doing is people who came here, people who came over our border without permission, are not being punished. They are instead being rewarded. And so you
they're not.
Let me answer to that. Very different standard to Ukraine. I'm wondering if Russians fleeing Putin, do you believe should be allowed to start new and better lives in Ukraine? And I bet you'd say no, because you believe in Ukrainian nationalism, but not American.
I want to be rigorous. I'm talking about those people who have lived here for more than 5 years, that have not committed a crime, that have American children, and who are contributing to our economy. I want to give them something called dignity, and then redemption. I'm not talking about path to citizenship. I'm not talking about amnesty. I'm talking about I'm not. And I don't want you to misrepresent what we did, and we worked for 1 whole year so we can solve. Just because this bill,
let me ask you.
You don't agree. No, wait.
Our viewers can read the bill. Let me ask you a simple question. You're for sending MiGs
The fact that you don't agree with me doesn't mean that you have to misrepresent what's on the bill.
There's a battle back and forth Tucker was having with Florida Representative Maria Salazar, and the issue was a bill that she was co-sponsoring that would grant undocumented folks amnesty, or at least some sort of a pathway, and that is strike number 1. Just in that exchange yesterday, I want you guys to realize a couple of things there. As she had a few seconds to make her point, she did point out that dignity. We want to give folks a dignity. That's when he was triggered. That was one of the first points of like, dignity, because we see how he sees other folks, specifically these particular immigrants. And also, he said our viewers can read the bill. It goes back to them wanting to tell his viewers what to think. They can read the bill. Are they going to read the bill? Did you tell them to go read the bill, or are you just going to assume they should read the bill because you don't want her to explain what's in it? That's really what's happening here. So anyway, let's go to some of the details of what it was that was happening in this this Dignity Act that Salazar was a part of trying to put for 13 million people. So the Salazar bill would allow undocumented immigrants who have lived in the United States for more than 5 years to stay and work here without the threat of deportation. It also offers them a path to citizenship, but it's a very long one. They couldn't apply for permanent residency and a green card, which is required before seeking citizenship for at least 15 years. This is what Tucker's mad about that she's putting in there. 15 years. So what could the process be? Because we see how conservatives always complain about we need to do something about our immigration policy, and what the immigration policy would like to do with is just complete and utter violence and pushback. So here they are button heads further. They continued this argument for a while. Watch this part.
Well, look, I think you've said it yourself that people who came here illegally, tens of millions of them, would be allowed to stay. They would not be punished, they would be rewarded. Now, you think that's enhancing their dignity? By the way, I'm not against those people. I just can't help notice the contrast that our borders are porous. They're not defended, they are open. Should we send the US military to the Mexican border?
That is what I have created a whole plan so we can really seal the border. Because you know what? My community, the one that I represent, let me finish. Let me finish.
America,
the one that I represent.
Okay.
Listen, let me finish. Give me 15 seconds.
I shall.
Thank you. I have created a series of measures so we can secure the border. If we deport those 11 or 13 million, we may not have food by Friday.
Okay.
Why? Because the food supply chain.
Okay, then would you support the US military securing the United States border tonight, or on the same timetable as sending MiGs to Ukraine? How about that?
That's hypothetical again.
No, it's a very straightforward question. What are you talking? You're a lawmaker.
No, it's not
hypothetical. What do you mean? Just say it. You're not for it, and you're for it in Ukraine, but not here.
I don't know her stance on whether or not she wants to send American forces to Ukraine to defend their borders. But I mean, Tucker will definitely allow his audience to think so. So again, the battle then comes: should we send troops to our border because there's this invasion of folks that are looking primarily for a better life, some kind of work, some way to survive? That's the same as Russian troops invading Ukraine, according to Tucker Carlson and according to his audience, because they'll listen to that garbage. Now, also, by the way, they didn't even find any common ground when she did point out who she does represent and the district she represents, which usually is a softening point for conservatives. Let's watch this part.
To say that we're supposed to be representing the American people. I represent district number 27, where you have millions of Cuban Americans, and I'm representing what we think. We know that we acquired peace through strength. Look at what happened in 1960. Fidel Castro and JFK.
Stop. I'm sorry.
JFK
I'm not going to take the anti-communist lecture from anybody because, of course, I agree with you.
No.
And by the way, I hope that you're not
history.
speaking for quote Cuban Americans, but for all Americans, because it's not a racial question.
No, not a racial question at all. And also, hey, you can't flip the Cuban thing on me. This is what we do to everyone else. He can tell when the argument's gonna start looking bad for him. That's when he interrupts. That's when he does the weird cackling laugh. All these tactics are to continue to keep people thinking that he knows what he's talking about, and that also he's not convincing them of things that are untrue. Let's get to this last story, you guys, with Candace Owens.
We've got some mean tweets that I haven't seen yet, so we're gonna read some of them. This is gonna be fun. Oh, someone said to me, okay, I guess this was in response to a tweet where I said, I'm the only person who has considered how pulling out of Afghanistan and starting a war with Russia are related from an energy policy perspective. And Anthony said, hey, McFly, we didn't start a war with Russia. Putin didn't even start a war. He started a genocidal colonization. Where are you? Ukraine is defending itself and the rest of the world from an authoritarian regime. And all you can think about is fossil fuel profitability. Wow, a genocidal colonization is interesting. Again, going back to my point of people being stupid, he's not trying to commit a genocide of the Ukrainians. That obviously makes no sense because there is no difference ethnically from Ukrainians and Russians. Obviously, Ukraine wasn't a thing until 1989. Ukraine was created by the Russians. It was, they speak Russian.
So more international policy and discussions from Candace Owens. Again, reading mean tweets and responding to them there, through whichever form that was. But again, there's this whole speaking Russian. There's some facts here that she missed. So first of all, there's a vast majority of Ukrainian folks in the Ukrainian population. They do speak Ukrainian. It is a thing. So as far as Russian, yes, I'm sure folks also speak Russian as well. But also we speak English. That's a language, and then there's this country, it's called the United States. We understand that. But also, she did issue a response later on when she was talking about that 1989 Ukraine comment, because that's pretty ridiculous. Let's watch that.
Right, so to go back to my comment that they're trying to excerpt to make Ukrainians hate me, which is absolutely ridiculous, to make it seem like I'm pro-Putin and trying to justify the invasion or anything like that. At the end of all of my shows, each episode of my show, I get questions I take from the audience or from online, and I don't see the questions. They're just sort of selected at random. So there's no preparation. I'm just kind of like speaking off the top of my head and answering very quickly. The reason why I said, Ukraine wasn't a thing, and I could have said it more eloquently. I could have said Ukraine wasn't an independent country until, and for those who corrected, I said 1989, obviously because of the fall of the Soviet Union, but it's 1991, 2 years ago. Ukraine wasn't a country, an independent country until 1991, would have been more eloquent.
So if it's more eloquent to say 1991 wasn't a country, that's connected back to the fact that we're talking about whether or not you said we started a war with Russia when they invaded this country, whenever it was established as you consider there. What point are they allowed to not invade someone else's country? What if it was a country 5 years ago? Should you invade because it's been 5 years? Either way it goes. Mehdi Hassan did also respond to some of these things that Candace Owens was saying. He did tweet also, Candace Owens, who's having claimed Hitler was fine until he started operating outside of Germany's borders, now turns her historical expertise on Ukraine as this thing continues to blow up. And of course, Jason Campbell then tweeted inside of that he was talking about the Ukraine wasn't a thing until 1989, and then it was created by Russians. So all of her factual things that people are pushing back on, she's trying to clarify. Now, there's a lot of details to all of this. And the main thing when I heard this come up was It's okay to not know this stuff. This is the thing, we end up with these battles about, oh man, there's the technical side that didn't really start until 1989, or maybe it was 91, or maybe it was ethnically Russian back then, and then there was the Soviet Union. All these things that also I am not an expert on, it's okay. But we have this now narrative every time a pundit, specifically pundits, want to say something about, oh, Jesus. We want to say something about our historical nature of things. You don't have to say it. Just chill, calm down. It's not a big deal. Just don't do it if you don't know it. It's okay. There's experts on this. I ran out of time, you guys. Let's. Jesus, man, this is really fast. Coming up next is John with the damage report. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Man, this is a total run into a brick wall type of thing. But we'll catch you guys tomorrow. We'll see you later.